For 8 years, the young boy kept touching his ear. Every doctor gave the same response. There's nothing we can do. His dad spent millions, traveled all over the globe, and pleaded with experts to check one more time. They all just shook their heads. Then a housekeeper spotted something nobody else had, and what she discovered in that kid's ear will shock you. James Whittaker was a billionaire. He had private planes, huge houses, more cash than most folks see in 10 lifetimes. But his son Noah was born deaf. 8 years old, never heard a thing. James tried it all. Johns Hopkins, places in Switzerland, Tokyo, experts who charged thousands an hour. They did tests, scans, treatments. All of them said the same thing. It can't be fixed. Just deal with it. But James couldn't deal with it because Noah was all he had. His wife passed away during the birth of that boy. So James kept looking, kept paying, kept hoping for a solution. What he didn't realize was that the solution wasn't from a medical center. It came from the woman he had just brought on to mop his floors. Grace was a housekeeper. 27, no college, no qualifications, just a lady working to cover her grandma's care home costs. But she saw something about Noah that every expert had overlooked, something dark in his ear. And one night, when James was out, she chose to do something that could either save that boy's life or ruin hers. What came next? You have to see it to believe it. Before we go on, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from. I think this tale reached you right now for a good reason. The Whittaker estate covered 40 acres of land in Greenwich, Connecticut. From the outside, it seemed perfect. Tall columns, shiny windows, gardens kept spotless. But inside, it was quiet. Not the calm type, not the type that brings peace. This quiet felt heavy, thick, like something bad had happened and nobody dealt with it. Staff walked the halls without talking. Their steps were light, cautious. They had figured it out fast. Mr. Whittaker preferred things silent. No songs played in that home, no TV sounds, no laughs echoing off the walls. Just quiet. And in that quiet, a dad was struggling hard. James Whittaker spent most evenings in his office looking at the family picture over the fireplace. There she was, Isabel, his wife, her smile captured in paint, her eyes still full of life. Next to her, an earlier version of himself, seeming optimistic, seeming complete. And between them, Noah, 3 years old in the picture, before James knew his son would never hear his mom's name. Isabel died the day Noah arrived. Issues during birth, the doctor said. Too much blood loss, not enough time. James held her hand as she faded. She tried to say something. Her lips moved, but nothing came out, just like their son. James never let himself off the hook. If he had picked a different place for the birth, if he had pushed for better help, if he had watched more closely, maybe she would still be around. Maybe Noah would be okay. The regret pressed on him like a weight he couldn't move. So he did what he knew best. He threw money at it. Millions of dollars, the top experts anywhere, trips across seas, stays in spots that cost more per night than most earn in a month. Every doctor said the same thing. Your son's deafness is from birth. We can't help. You have to come to terms with it. Come to terms with it? How could he come to terms with his boy living without sound forever? How could he come to terms with Noah never hearing his dad say, "I'm sorry your mom isn't here"? So James kept hunting, kept signing checks, kept believing that out there somewhere, somebody had the fix. He didn't realize that the fix wasn't from an expert. It was from someone he wouldn't normally notice, someone who was about to step through his front door with only belief in her soul and debts she couldn't handle. Her name was Grace, and she was set to turn things upside down. Grace Thompson showed up on a Tuesday morning in October. The sky was dull, the kind that makes everything feel extra tough. She stood at the entrance to the Whittaker property, holding her bag tight with both hands, trying to calm her nerves. This was her final shot. Back in Bridgeport, her grandma was in a care home bed. The payments were stacking up on Grace's table like a pile she couldn't control. 3 months late, that's what the notice said. If she didn't catch up, they'd move her grandma to a public place, the type where people get overlooked, where nobody holds your hand, where you turn into a file instead of a person. Grace couldn't allow that. Her grandma had brought her up, taken her in after her parents died in a crash when Grace was 11, fed her when the fridge was empty, prayed for her when things seemed hopeless. That lady deserved more than a bare room and people who didn't care. So Grace took this housekeeping job at a billionaire's home. She didn't care about the upscale location, didn't care about the rich family. She just needed the money. The main housekeeper, Mrs. Margaret Vaughn, greeted her at the entrance. Strict expression, keen eyes, the type of lady who spotted everything and let nothing slide. "Your Grace?" "Yes, ma'am." "You'll clean, you'll stay silent, you'll mind your business. Mr. Whitaker doesn't like interruptions, especially near his son." Grace nodded. "I get it. Do you? Because the previous girl didn't. She tried to get too chummy with the boy, thought she could help. She was out in a week." Grace swallowed hard. "I'm just here to do the job, ma'am." Mrs. Margaret Vaughn looked her over for a long second, then nodded. "Fine, come with me." As they moved through the mansion, Grace kept her gaze low, but she couldn't avoid seeing things. The quiet so dense it seemed real, the way the other workers moved without words, without grins, the weight that filled the air like a cloud that wouldn't go away. And then she spotted him, a little boy on the marble steps lining up toy cars perfectly. He didn't glance up, didn't notice anyone. His shoulders were slumped, his actions exact, careful. But what grabbed Grace's focus was something else, the way he kept touching his right ear, just for a second, almost like a routine, and the small wince that showed on his face each time. Grace's heart tightened. She'd seen that expression before. She didn't speak up, just kept going, but her heart told her something she couldn't brush off. Watch closely. Days went by. Grace mopped floors, cleaned windows, folded sheets. She kept low-key, like Mrs. Margaret Vaughn said, but she couldn't stop observing Noah. Every morning, the same pattern. The boy would sit by himself in the sunny room with model planes and puzzle parts around him. His space was limited, controlled, secure. Nobody disturbed him there. The other workers steered clear, not from meanness, from worry, like his quiet was something they might pick up. Some said quietly that the boy was unlucky, that losing his mom at birth had taken his hearing too. Just old beliefs, that's all. But Grace saw a different side. She saw a kid who was deeply alone, a boy who sat near windows and put his little hand on the glass, watching a life go on without him. She saw how he'd glance at his dad sometimes when James passed by without pausing, and how his small shoulders would drop a bit more. She saw how he touched his ear again and again, wincing each time, and nobody paid attention. Or maybe they had stopped paying attention ages ago. One afternoon, Grace was wiping dust near the sunny room when she saw Noah having trouble with a model plane part. His tiny fingers couldn't make it connect. Irritation showed on his face. She shouldn't get involved, Mrs. Margaret Vaughn's words rang in her head. But before she could hold back, Grace kneeled and softly took the part. She connected it with a quiet snap. Noah looked at her. For a second, they just held each other's gaze. Then something shifted. The smallest grin, just a quick one at the edge of his mouth. Grace's heart opened up. She grinned back, gave a little wave. He waved too. That night, Grace lay awake thinking about that wave. Such a tiny thing, but it meant so much. The next morning, she left something on the steps where Noah always sat, a folded paper bird, basic, from leftover paper she found in the kitchen. She didn't stick around to see if he'd grab it. But the day after, the bird was missing. In its spot, a note, 2 words in wobbly writing. "Thank you." Grace held that note close and shut her eyes. She whispered into the stillness, "Lord, help me assist this child. Show me the way." She didn't know yet, but God was already responding, and the response would demand everything from her. Over the next few weeks, things changed. Grace and Noah created their own way to connect. Little things, private things. She'd leave him candy in shiny wrappers. He'd leave her sketches of planes. She picked up his signals, not the standard ones from his teachers, but the ones he invented. Tapping his chest twice meant he was glad. Pointing to the sky meant he was thinking of stars. Pressing both hands together meant he felt secure. And bit by bit, he started using that signal near her. Secure. Grace valued that more than anything. But not everyone was happy. One night, Mrs. Margaret Vaughn caught her in the kitchen. "I've noticed you with the boy." Grace's stomach sank. "Ma'am, I haven't." Mrs. Margaret Vaughn's tone was harsh. "I told you, Mr. Whitaker has guidelines. Workers don't get personal with Noah." "I'm not causing issues. He's just alone." "That's not your problem."
Mrs. Margaret Vaughn moved closer. "You're here to clean, not to parent that child, not to repair what can't be repaired." Grace held her words. Repair what can't be repaired. That's what they all said. Even here, in this home where the boy lived, they had all quit trying. "If Mr. Whitaker learns you've been meddling, you're out. No recommendations, no do-overs." Mrs. Margaret Vaughn's eyes were icy. "Remember that." She left, shoes clicking on the floor like a timer running out. That night, Grace sat on her bed, looking at the wall. She thought about her grandma, the debts, the salary she needed badly. She thought about Noah, his sad eyes, his hurt. She thought about the dark spot she'd seen in his ear. Mrs. Margaret Vaughn's words stuck in her mind. Repair what can't be repaired. That's what they all said. Even here, in this home where the boy lived, they had all quit trying. "If Mr. Whitaker learns you've been meddling, you're out. No recommendations, no do-overs." Mrs. Margaret Vaughn's eyes were icy. Remember that. She left, shoes clicking on the floor like a timer running out. That night, Grace sat on her bed, looking at the wall. She thought about her grandma, the debts, the salary she needed badly. She thought about Noah, his sad eyes, his hurt. She thought about the dark spot she'd seen in his ear. Mrs. Margaret Vaughn's words stuck in her mind. Repair what can't be repaired. But what if it could? What if they were all mistaken? Grace grabbed her Bible and held it near. "Lord, I'm lost on what to do. I can't lose this work, but I can't ignore what I see." She waited in the quiet. No response came, just the pressure of a choice she wasn't prepared for. Outside her window, the moon sat low and full. Inside her heart, a battle was starting, between what she needed to get by and what she knew was correct. She didn't realize yet, but that battle was about to wrap up because the next morning, everything would shift. The next morning arrived chilly and still. Grace was sweeping the hall when she heard it. A thump. Her heart froze. She ran to the noise. Noah was on the hall floor, curled tight, both hands on his ear, face twisted in pain. Tears ran down his cheeks. Silent tears. Grace stopped to her knees next to him. "I'm here, little one. I'm here." She held his head softly, turning it to the lamplight. The dark lump was plain now, bigger, pushing on his ear canal. Her hands shook. This was it, the time. She reached in her pocket, took out the clean tweezers she'd grabbed from the first aid box 3 days back, just in case. Her breaths came quick. "Lord, direct my hands, please." Noah looked at her, eyes wide, scared, but believing. "I won't cause pain, I promise," she signed with one hand. He nodded, slow. Grace steadied, breathed in, and softly, carefully put the tweezers in his ear canal. Her hand trembled. She felt it, the dark lump, thick and sticky. She caught it softly, pulled. It stuck. Her heart pounded. She pulled again, slow, careful, and then it came loose. It dropped in her hand. Dark, damp, natural buildup. Years of it that had taken his hearing. Grace looked at it. Her stomach flipped, but before she could think, Noah gasped. A real gasp. Hearable. Strong. His hand went to his ear. His eyes opened wide, wider than ever. He sat up quick, looking around the hall like it was new. Then he pointed at the big clock on the wall, the one that had ticked all his life, the one he'd never heard. His mouth opened. A sound came, rough, uneven, new, but true. T-ick. he said softly. Grace's tears dropped. Yes, little one, that's the clock. You can hear it. Noah's whole body shook. He touched his neck, felt his own voice vibrate. His eyes showed amazement and worry and something more, hope. His mouth opened again. One word, the first true word he'd ever said. Dad. Grace cried hard. She pulled him near as he trembled as sounds rushed into his world for the first time in 8 years. You can hear, she whispered in his hair. Thank you, Jesus, you can hear. Noah held on tight. And then, footsteps, heavy, quick, down the hall. Grace looked up. James Whittaker was in the doorway, his face pale as snow, his eyes fixed on his son on the floor and the blood on Grace's hands. What have you done? James' voice echoed loud. He rushed in, shoving Grace back, grabbing Noah by the shoulders. What did she do to you? Noah pulled back at the noise, so loud, so sharp. But then his mouth opened. Dad, I can hear you. James stopped still. His whole body froze. What? Noah reached up and touched his dad's face. Your voice, he said softly. Is that your voice? James's knees gave out. But before the moment could settle, before he could grasp it, his eyes saw Grace's hands. The blood, the tweezers, the dark lump in her palm. Fear replaced amazement. Security, he yelled. Now! 2 guards appeared right away. Get her away from my son. Grace's heart broke. Sir, please hear me out. I didn't harm him. I fixed it. Look! She held out her hand, showing the blockage. This was in his ear. This is why he couldn't hear. I took it out. You're not a doctor, James shouted. You could have ended his life. The guards took Grace's arms. Noah screamed, really screamed. No, don't take her. The sound of his son's voice, loud, desperate, true, made James freeze, but the fear was too much. Take her to the security room. Call the cops. Grace didn't fight. As they pulled her away, she looked back at Noah. It's okay, she mouthed. You'll be fine. Noah cried hard, loud, raw cries, the first sounds of sadness he'd ever made. At the hospital, doctors crowded around Noah. Tests, scans, checks. James walked the hall, his mind whirling. His son was talking, hearing, reacting to noises. It was unreal. A nurse came to him. Mr. Whittaker, the doctor needs to talk to you right now. James went with her to a small room. Dr. Matthews was at the desk, face serious. Mr. Whittaker, I don't know how to put this. Just say it. The doctor pushed a file over. This is your son's scan from 3 years ago. James opened it. There, marked in red, was a note. Thick blockage noted in right ear canal. Suggest quick removal. James felt cooled. Someone spotted this? Dr. Matthews nodded. It looks that way, but no next steps, no treatment set. Your file was marked for continued care plan. The word struck James hard. Continued care plan. They'd known. They'd seen the blockage years back and left it because his cash was too good to fix, because his worry kept paying. They kept my son deaf, James said softly, on purpose. Dr. Matthews stayed quiet, but his quiet said it all. James's hands shook. All those years, all those millions, all those experts saying no. They'd lied. And the one person who was honest, who really helped, was in his security room waiting for arrest. James stood. Where are you heading? The doctor asked. James didn't reply. He had a housekeeper to find and a lifetime of sorries to say. Grace sat alone in the security room, hands together, head down. She wasn't praying for herself. She was praying for Noah, that his hearing would last, that his dad would get it, that the boy would finally feel what it's like to be in a world with sound. The door opened. She looked up. James Whittaker was there. But he wasn't the same guy who had her taken away an hour before. His eyes were red, his face wrecked. He looked like a man who just saw his life fall apart and come back in one go. Grace, his name said gently, with respect. She stood. Mr. Whittaker, I can tell you what happened. Don't. He walked to her slowly. Don't tell. Don't say sorry. Don't say anything. He stopped in front of her. And this billionaire, this man who ran companies, dropped to his knees. I'm sorry, he said softly. I'm so sorry. Grace caught her breath.
The doctors knew, James, voice broke. They saw the blockage years back. They left it because my money was too good to fix, because my worry kept paying. They kept my son deaf, James said softly, on purpose. Dr. Matthews stayed quiet, but his quiet said it all. James's hands shook. All those years, all those millions, all those experts saying no. They'd lied. And the one person who was honest, who really helped, was in his security room waiting for arrest. James stood. "Where are you heading?" the doctor asked. James didn't reply. He had a housekeeper to find and a lifetime of sorries to say. Grace sat alone in the security room, hands together, head down. She wasn't praying for herself. She was praying for Noah, that his hearing would last, that his dad would get it, that the boy would finally feel what it's like to be in a world with sound. The door opened. She looked up. James Whitaker was there. But he wasn't the same guy who had her taken away an hour before. His eyes were red, his face wrecked. He looked like a man who just saw his life fall apart and come back in one go. Grace, his name said gently, with respect. She stood. "Mr. Whitaker, I can tell you what happened." "Don't." He walked to her slowly. "Don't tell. Don't say sorry. Don't say anything." He stopped in front of her. And this billionaire, this man who ran companies, dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I'm so sorry." Grace caught her breath. "The doctors knew, James," voice broke. "They saw the blockage years back. They left it because my money was too good to fix, because my worry kept paying. They kept my son deaf," James said softly, "on purpose." Dr. Matthews stayed quiet, but his quiet
Tears ran down his face. I believed them. I believed in titles and education and pricey places. I spent millions on my son's issue and never once stopped to really see him. He looked at her. "But you did. You saw him. You saw his hurt. You noticed when nobody else did." Grace's tears fell too. "I just cared about him, sir. That's it." James shook his head. "No, that's all that matters." He got up slowly. "I've spent 8 years trying to buy a fix, and God sent one through the woman I hired to clean my home." Grace wiped her eyes. "God uses those who are ready, Mr. Whitaker. That's what my grandma always said." James nodded. She was spot on. They went back to Noah's hospital room side by side. The boy was on the bed, headphones on, hearing music for the first time. His face was full of awe. When he saw them, he took off the headphones and ran right to Grace. He hugged her waist. "Thank you," he said. His voice was raw, new, wonderful. Grace knelt and hugged him tight. "You were always worth hearing, little one. Always." Noah stepped back and looked at his dad. "Dad, I can hear your heart. It's beating quick." James knelt and pulled his son close. For the first time in 8 years, Noah heard his dad cry, and Grace, standing quietly next to them, finally let herself relax. God had answered her prayer, not with cash, not with treatments, but with ready hands and a true heart. Sometimes that's all a miracle takes.